Baseball. It's the sport that I played as a kid growing up. I mean, with the last name of Ruth, you'd expect a kid to play no other sport than what the Great Bambino had played himself. Some of my earliest memories are of me and my dad tossing the ball back and forth. Now, as a ball player, it didn't matter if it was Little League or high school baseball. My job was to get on base and then to get into scoring position as quickly as possible. Now, I wasn't a big kid growing up. I was small. And so I was never meant to hit a lot of triples. I was never going to hit a ton of home runs, but I was fast. And so as a leadoff hitter, I would do anything that I could do to get on base and then steal second, usually within 4 pitches. I'll never forget the game that we played against Culver Military Academy. I went 3 for 3 that day, and how I got on base doesn't really matter. What matters is this. This is the game where I stole 6 bases. I would get on base, and within 4 pitches, I'd steal second. And then usually within 3 pitches after that, I would steal third. By the 4th time I had stolen a base, it had gotten comical. It was hilarious. They couldn't throw me out. Even when they tried to pitch out, they couldn't throw me out. It was hilarious. Now, as 2020 was ending, for some reason this story kept popping back up in my head, and the idea of stealing bases. And as 2020 was closing down, I also started to think about 2021. And I asked God and I prayed to God to speak to me and give me goals and give me steps for my life and for my family's life. And as I was thinking about 2021, 2 phrases kept popping into my head. One for my family that I'll share at a later date, and one for myself. And the one for myself is actually a phrase that's on a paperweight that I have that was given to me when I was younger. And it says this: you can't steal second base and keep your foot on first. I don't know where you're at right now. I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know what you're thinking about. I don't know what you're struggling with. I don't know what relationships are strained. I don't know anything about you. But I do know this. God is telling you right now that you can't steal second base and keep your foot on first. God is telling you that you can't keep one foot in that relationship. You can't keep one foot in anger and hate. You can't keep one foot in one life and expect to get to the next. You see, when I looked out as I was standing on first, I could see second base. I knew that's where I needed to go. I knew that I needed to be standing on second base, because if I was standing on second base and there was a base hit, I would score. But that took a decision to leave first base first. I knew that if I wanted to stand on second base, I needed to make a decision to leave the safety of first base. God is calling each of us to leave first base. He's calling each one of us to our next step. Now, that looks differently for each of us, but He's calling each of us closer to Himself. He's calling each of us to step out in faith. Now, for those looking at our lives from the outside in, that might look a little crazy, and it might feel like a giant step for us. But what I want you to know is 2 things. First, you're not alone. There are those who have gone before us. There are those who have gone before us. Check this out. It's actually found in Genesis chapter 6, verse 22, and it's a short sentence, super short. It's only 8 words. And it says this: Noah did everything just as God commanded him. If you read just that, you might think, cool, Noah did everything that God asked of him. That's awesome. But what did Noah do? He built a boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high, on dry land, with no rain in sight. I wonder what people thought as they walked by. I wonder if they asked Noah questions. I wonder if they talked behind his back or made fun of him. You see, to the outside world, what God asked Noah to do might have seemed crazy, but Noah walked with God. And when you walk with someone long enough, you get to talk and listen to each other, and Noah listened to God. What God is asking you to do might seem crazy to those who are looking from the outside in, but know that there are those who have gone before you and have listened to and have obeyed God. You're in good company. Secondly, you should also know this. There are those who will walk with you. Noah had other people in his life. His wife, his sons' wives. We don't know much about them at the time of the building of the ark, but we know that they were there with him. I wonder what the conversation was around the dinner table. I wonder what they prayed about. We don't know any of that, but what we do know is, we know that they were there with Noah. And like Noah, there will be people who will walk with you. There will be people who will pray with you. There will be people who will push you towards Jesus. And if you don't have anybody in your life like that right now, let me be the first person to raise my hand and say, I will be that person for you. 2021. God is calling each one of us to leave the safety of first base. He's calling each one of us to take our next step and to go after great things for Him. That looks differently for each of us, and it might look a little scary or even crazy. But know this, there are those who have gone before you, and there are those who will walk with you. The question is, will you go after God, and will you go after what He has for you?